to tell you about the amazing products by the sponsor of this podcast, the biophotonic EMF and bioresonance devices, which help us take our healing to the next frequency. So let me start with the bioresonance devices. Biophotonic have two amazing little devices, the little BioNexus and the biophotonic, and both of these are really the next generation in bioresonance devices. So let's start with the little BioNexus. This amazing little device literally sits in the palm of your hand. And it's now my go-to support, especially when doing my daily manifestations and affirmation practices. But it will balance out my frequency to work on whatever needs balancing for me right here, right now. So, what are some of the benefits of this little BioNexus? Improved energy, decreased inflammation, supports our immune system, psychological homeostasis. But also, it supports the integrity of the cells, improves our memory, cognitive, emotional, and psychological states, and speeds up recovery. And just like we've been talking about today, it really improves human consciousness support. Now, the other bioresonance device, the biophotonic, absolutely amazing little device, comes preloaded with a range of therapies. And this will clear parasites, giving active protection. You can wear it with you. It comes in a little pouch that you can wear around your neck, and it detoxifies heavy metals, clears EMF radiation out of cells, cleanses bacteria and viruses, detoxes chemicals and toxins, DNA repair, pain repair, you name it. And it's even got calming meditation practices that, well, complexes that you can run to strengthen the aura field, and frequency packs can also be added to your water. I think we all know the detrimental effects now of mobile Bluetooth and EMF radiation. They've been extensively studied, and I've done loads of videos on it. So minimizing our exposure is crucial. So what's really key is both the biophotonic and the BioNexus. They're standalone, lovely little devices that don't require Bluetooth connection, a Wi-Fi connection. You don't need to buy any frequency packages. There's no subscription fee, and you don't need a mobile phone to control them. There's no electrodes. They're completely wireless, ready to use straight from the box. So you can get these and a full range of EMF protection devices that you can use for yourself and your pets. Don't forget to use coupon code CE20 to get 20% off all products, including EMF protection. Thank you. And now back to the podcast. Right, we are recording our coffee chat a couple of days early this week due to schedule things, exciting things coming up. But I am back with Bryce from Esoteric Atlanta, and we do weekly coffee chats. We've got quite a few listeners. So for those of you that are new to the channel, please do check out all Bryce's links below. The links to her YouTube channel, Esoteric Atlanta, her Rumble channel are all below. And we're going to be discussing, Bryce, today something I sent through a video which had Clayton Morris from Redacted and Ian Carroll. And I've put it, everyone go and check out the video because I put it on my community tab. And I was listening to that this morning, and I thought this ties into things that we've talked about a lot over the past few years. So today we're going to start off the discussion by talking about the whole concept about if people aren't prepared to admit they're wrong, then they're not growing. You know, part of human growth and the awakening journey or the self-discovery or the self-work or even growing up is being able to really look at new information, not get too attached to it, keep your mind open, see what's coming in and be prepared to change your mind.
Yeah, I love that, especially at the end when they started talking about that. I thought, oh, this is definitely why you sent this to me because it was so interesting to see this. This guy's like 31 years old, super young, but he was super grounded in his approach to his own awakening. And you could tell he took a very grounded approach to things like the establishment. I won't say all the words because, and figuring out like what's actually happening. And the way he described it was so practical. And at the end, he did talk about the emotion and that if you're arguing with somebody and you see they're getting over an opinion and you see they're starting to get emotional, it's best to just remove yourself from that argument, because there's no growth. You've obviously attached yourself to this idea. It's become a part of you. And so there's not going to be any swaying. And the idea of, yeah, being wrong. Like I say that we come here to earth to be messy. Like we come here to mess up, because that's how we grow and learn. That's the friction. And yeah, if you're never wrong, then you're not evolving and growing.
Yeah, I love it. When I started the introduction and I asked you the question, Coco, my cat here, um, joined in and meowed. Look, isn't she beautiful? She said, I have to put my hand here, otherwise she'll come and knock all my computer equipment off. So let's talk about the concept of being wrong, because this is an issue. What we're seeing a lot in, you and I have discussed multiple times, and all our listeners, have been in these discussions with us about how this doubling down of a lot of times in the mainstream media, these are effective, these are safe and effective. A narrative. I did an interview yesterday on geoengineering, climate engineering with Dame Wigington. That will be up later on this week, hopefully tomorrow, if YouTube stop messing about. But we were talking about being able to discuss things respectfully. And what happens a lot, and we're seeing it just as much almost in the alternative media as the mainstream media, is people get attached to a narrative. They go out there and publicly put their flag in the ground. This is the hill I'm going to die on by sticking to this narrative. And when new information comes through, they're not prepared to budge at all. And this whole concept that this ridiculous shaming about people changing their opinions, when surely that's the whole point about life, about whether it's your intuition, whether it's a scientific concept, whether it's discovering our history. The whole point is being able to take on new information, consider it, and then, if necessary, adapt your views and opinions based on it.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've talked about this a lot. I see this emotional outburst happening more in the alternative media than with the normies. And actually, the guy kind of talked a little bit about this. Like, when we look at the establishment, or what we call the left, that's controlled by the three-letter agencies, that's actually a small percentage of humanity. The rest of people that sway more left are pretty grounded and kind of can agree with a lot of the things people on maybe we would call the right agree on. There's some commonality. It's kind of extremes, right? We're talking about. But as we look at the three-letter agencies that control the left, with all the shenanigans going on, we can see that same reaction in the alternative media.
Yeah.
And where people, and I think, and I've been thinking about, what do they say? Pride cometh before the fall.
Mm.
And I think too, what happens is we start to label, like a lot of people realized a few years back that something wasn't right. That's the math wasn't mathing, right? Things weren't adding up. And so they go down this rabbit hole. And of course, we've talked a lot about junk conspiracy being injected. And so you start to be identified as someone who's awake, right? And to me, that's terribly scary to hold that emotional identity, because if you identify as awake, then you're not going to see where you're asleep, because you're not going to accept. What is it, Mark Twain's quote? It's easier to fool someone than convince them they've been fooled. And we see that I've gotten more threats from the alternative media side just by reading the missing books of the Bible. And to me, it's obvious. It's like, you can't you can see that medicine's messed up, politics, all that kind of stuff, but you think religion has not been touched? Like, it's pretty obvious. It's all, but it's that emotional identity that it's you're attacking when you, and this is one of the main principles of yoga, of what causes human suffering, right? If you identify yourself with your opinions as being who you are, then it's bound to cause suffering. And that is because we are in an environment where everything's always changing. And so opinions are bound to weave and change as you grow and learn. I was saying before we went on, Marnie Alton said this once, brilliant. Change is inevitable, growth is optional.
Yeah.
So suffering comes. So when someone gets emotional because they can't accept, for example, in my experience, they can't accept that the church is corrupt as well. When they get emotional, it's because they've identified with that as being who they are, instead of seeing it as just an opinion that can shift and grow. And he was totally right. When you're in that state of misidentifying yourself with this thing that's not even permanent, it's just an opinion, you're not going to be able to waver that person. They're going to stay in that sense of suffering.
And I think we've all been there. As we talk about in these coffee chats, the whole point of them is we're not pretending we've got it all sorted and we're all perfect. But I think, sorry, my cat is literally knocking. Coco, don't be naughty. Come on. She always it's hysterical every time I start press record. But you're distracting me. In terms of where people are at and being able to express themselves clearly, it's really, really difficult for people now because there's so much bad behavior on display. So you've only got to look at your country in America and my country in the UK and look at how politicians behave and public figures behave, and the lack of respectful conversation, the lack of actually being able to have a rational conversation and not bring too much heightened emotions in, which is always going to divide people. I think the trouble is a lot of people are so set on being right, they've forgotten the purpose of why they're trying to communicate in the first place. So it was really interesting. You know, we've both got channels, and everyone watching this obviously watches a lot of information online, whether it be YouTube, whether it be Rumble, whether it be podcast, whatever. And all of these are different information sources, the films, movies, music. And this information is coming to us from all directions, but it's very rare and it's not needed to agree with everything someone says. And we've discussed this concept of throwing the baby out with the bathwater many times before. So just to give an example of what I mean, I did an interview with Sasha Stone, a really good discussion with Sasha Stone. And you know, you and I, when we're having guests on our channel, it doesn't mean we agree with everything we say, but we're having these conversations to learn, to keep curious, to expand our consciousness. And someone picked up one thing because he was talking about the world being round, and because they were a flat earther, that's all they went off on a rant about. And it's such a missed opportunity to learn. You know, if you don't agree with that bit of it, that's absolutely fine and it's completely your prerogative. But to close yourself down to all the other information that was being shared just so you can put your stake in the ground and say, I'm right, they're wrong about this, which of course none of us really know anyway.
Yeah.
We might try to prove, you know, none of us can prove it. It's it's a worrying state, and I can see why so many people are like that, because social media does not shut down bad comments. It censors, which we're going to come on to, but it doesn't always shut down, or very rarely shuts down, bad behavior and abusive. I mean, the stuff that I've had on mine, you know,
Oh, yes.
it,
It's abuse, flat out abuse. Yeah, yeah.
unbelievable
Ew.
abuse. But you
It's
know, on
actual abuse.
Instagram, I mean, some of the stuff I share with Bryce, and not because it worries me, just that it worries me that we're living in a world where these people with such anger inside of them and such an inability to control themselves, verbally, what a dangerous world that is, to be living with people you don't know if you're going to bump into them in the street and they're going to stab you. If you're anyone that can react that violently online is an issue and is a danger to society and
I
themselves.
agree. I agree. And it's a worry for humanity. And it's interesting too. I posted this on my Instagram and on my community tab. And a lot of times when I get abusive comments, I just delete them. But I
Yeah,
posted this up because this guy was like spiritually he disagreed. I
I
had done it.
saw that.
It was so abusive to me. And it was because he didn't agree with my research. Well, and I found out that it was over Alexander the Great. He's a channeler who channels Alexander the Great. And so my research triggered that basically proved his channeling wrong. And so everything he said, he was like, I know you're single, you know, just really enough, which I'm not. You know, it's like so he started to attack me as the person presenting the research versus having a logical perspective to say, okay, this is just research. That's all this is research. And people get so, and it's what I'm actually, you guys, I'm in the middle, I'm like about to do an episode for Monday before I head out that I'm to release on Padre Pio, we're recovering stigmatas. And when I was originally studying him, I kept thinking about this term called scrupulosity. And I hope I'm saying that right, which I think it should be probably talked about more. This is a form of mental disorder that is based around like either religious or moral, like it's a religious or moral OCD. And it makes people go a little bit psycho. And I'm not saying, I do think there was some of that with Padre Pio, but I think when you're talking about this, I'm thinking so many people identify their opinions with who they are as a person. So we're talking about moral parameters. So someone might let's say that someone supports we'll say the N word. I don't want to say it. You guys know what I'm talking about, that we're all subjugated to. Now, we know from research that what they say they're doing is not what they're doing. But someone who hasn't done the research is going to think they're doing good things, or they're helping the world, right? And they're going to put in reality, that person's moral compass and our moral compass is the same. It's just that the information is missing. But if you challenge that, it's gonna, without them being able to think logically and pull the emotion out of it, it's gonna feel like they're being attacked. Like the guy on my channel who thought he's channeling Alexander the Great because he watched my video. He didn't have to watch my video, but he watched it because it told a different story than what he had channeled, which is him. He then tries to degrade me. And the fact that I don't know, we've said this all the time. I know we sound like old women saying this, but I think about my childhood, and I'm like, this shit just did not happen. Like, people were more respectful. And you're right, I get that too, Catherine. I'll have people, come on my channel and they'll present something, or they'll say something that I don't agree with, and my audience knows I don't agree with, but I don't interrupt them. I let them keep going, and I get comments like that I didn't say anything and didn't. I'm like, because I'm not going to censor. There's other things this person is saying that I do agree with, so I'm not going to really pay attention. You guys know my opinion on this particular thing. Now you know their opinion on this particular thing. Why does it have to be an emotional matter?
Oh, such a good point, because often both people have got good points as well. It's very rarely black or white,
Yeah.
I mean, it's such an interesting phenomenon that we're seeing here, with people not being able to present themselves and have a discussion and be okay with not knowing, and have interesting discussions about things, and saying, well, what about this scenario? Take some of the discussions about the royal family, for example, of the UK. Now, we've had several discussions on those, and it's not, we've said right the way along, we are not pretending we know what the
Yeah.
situation is. We'll never know. I mean, I think it's unlikely that we'll never know what really happened to Princess Diana, or the two big towers in New York. Or there's so many different theories there, and a lot of them are very plausible, and a lot of them could be mutually true as
Yeah.
well. So it's this, we've proved that wrong, we've done that. Life doesn't work like that. These people that having spiritual discussions, look at that. I know you did something on the Mandela effect, and we've discussed it with Nick from Good Lion TV before. All these things, even Joe Dispenza has proved in his research that by changing the way we talk about things now, you can physically change
Yeah.
things that happened in the past. So all this is a reality, and everything else is wrong. It's a constantly moving feed a lot of the time. It sounds bizarre to people that haven't looked into it big time, but there's loads of scientists that show that we can change what happened in the past by our thinking and our actions now. And this whole time is an illusion. And I suppose the point of, I really encourage people to go and look at the redacted video, because there's so many good discussion points in there. But at the end of the day, a lot of people, I do want to come onto the censorship because it fits into this. A lot of people will show you who they are by their actions and their reactions. And this cognitive dissonance will kick in, because it's like, I've been following this person, I've been telling other people to follow this person, I did believe this person, and then new information comes to light, or the person changes.
Yeah.
We know that fame and money change people.
We've
That
seen it, haven't
happens.
we?
We do know that fame and money changes people. So just because you liked them a year ago and things doesn't, everything could have changed. You might have changed, you might be more perceptive, or they might have changed. People go from the light to dark, and people go from the dark to light. It's not a set in stone event.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I've been trying to say more often on my channel, I'm not the arbiter of truth. This is just my research, and I don't, there are certain things that I feel comfortable not having an opinion on, and just thinking things are interesting at this point in an interesting perspective. And it is very scary, again, that we've gone to this place where the pendulum swings so violently, and
Yeah.
that I told even the most delusional stuff. Like, it makes me laugh sometimes. I think I talked to you about this maybe on. I had a comment on an old video, like one of my first ever videos, where the person like left like this dissertation about how I must not be the same person. They must have replaced me because I don't look the same and my videos aren't filmed the same. And I laughed because I was like, That was 4 years ago, and I was new to YouTube. I've gotten better equipment. I've moved rooms. I used to do it in front of the bookcase, but I've moved rooms to a different set. Um, when you're on camera all day, every day, you start to learn what makeup works for you. You know, it's it and in 4 years, go back and look at you 4 years ago. The body is constantly changing. It resets
Yeah.
itself every 7 years. Like, so this is absolutely delusional. And in my opinion, I think where we've gone with this crazy making is definitely, that's just my opinion, intentional. Like it's causing friction, like too much friction. And yeah, it's really, when we talk about opinions and labels, I'm going to ask you, Catherine, because I have a point to this. What's your favorite food? Like, not just what, even if health and wellness were not in the equation, and what's your favorite food? Like your guilty pleasure favorite food?
Gosh, it really depends what mood I'm in, but off the top of my head, sticky toffee pudding.
My favorite food are fried mozzarella sticks. Oh my God,
Oh,
they're so
yeah.
bad for you, but like, those are so good. All right. So she likes the toffee pudding. I like mozzarella sticks. Should I get mad at her because she doesn't like the same food I like?
Mm.
Do you see how ridiculous that is? So
It's
that's
so
just an opinion.
true.
It's
Yeah,
just an opinion. It's just an opinion that she has and I have. It's just an opinion. So how is that any different than bigger subjects? And I'm thinking as she said that, I goes, oh, I should try that because that's probably more of an English thing. In my head when she said that, I was like, I should probably try that.
exactly. And I think, it's like I get a lot about the vegan debate and the vegetarian and things like this. It's so delusional to say that every vegan supports Bill Gates. A lot of
Oh
vegans
yeah.
vegans for ethical reasons, and they found a way to do it very, very healthily. And therefore, what? Why does that bother you? Why does
Yeah.
that bother you? They're not hurting. Well, the plant issue is a different issue, but don't worry, plants, I'm not eating you. But in all seriousness, this delusional thinking where you have to fight so hard for your own limitation, if what does it matter to anyone else here what I choose to eat and what I don't choose to eat?
Exactly.
What
Exactly.
what
I
I mean, it would do if I was eating babies. Can only get away with saying that once on here. And this is what I mean. It's like, why are we all so attached and we think we're right? These ridiculous people that I tried being a vegan and it just made me ill and nearly killed me. Well, you obviously didn't do it properly then. Don't then slate all vegans and just say because you had a bad experience, which could be for any number of reasons. It could have been what you were eating, it could have been your body type, could have been your belief systems, your subconscious belief systems. If they didn't believe it, it's ridiculous. And the problem is we're not moving forward when we can't have rational conversations about things. Most mysticism, most holistic therapies, most ancient wisdoms aren't provable in the
right.
modern scientific method, and they don't need to be. I mean, I can remember in my biology community where I'm laughing because it was so hysterical, guys, where there was this huge announcement because scientists had proven that meridian lines and acupressure points existed because they'd found a way to measure them. And it's like, well, we all know that. I mean, people have
Yeah.
known for
I
tens
didn't
of
need
thousands
proof.
of years, you know. But
Yeah.
if you need proof, then good for you. But most people don't, and this is what it comes back to about looking at each and every one of us. We keep saying it and we're talking to ourselves when we're talking this, because of course I react emotionally, but are we prepared to change our mind about things? Are we prepared to be wrong about people, about things, about lifestyle choices we've made, about decisions we've made? And if we're prepared to be wrong, are we prepared to admit it for the greater good, to share information so that other people can learn? That's part and parcel of being a friend or a parent, is that's what you do all the time. You share information so that other people don't have to learn the hard way.
Absolutely. I'm thinking of one example within my life. Before I was ever on YouTube, before I broke my sacrum in 2016, I was one of these yoga people, and I know a lot of them that really think the only exercise you should be doing is yoga asana. That's it. And I was that way because before I practiced yoga, I'd beaten myself up in other exercises, and I found a healing in the yoga asana. But then after I broke my sacrum and I started to get back into other movements, therapies, I realized how wrong I was.
Mm.
And now I very much like when we do our shadow works, I have so many different exercises in there Now, if I had not been willing to try other therapies like barre with my sacrum, then I would be in a whole different place right now in my life. I would probably still have sacrum issues. I probably would still be in a funk of anger over what had happened. But because I allowed myself the opportunity to course correct and try something else in that moment, I thought was just going to be temporary. And then I realized it allowed, because I was willing to try, even though I had such a staunch belief system about opinion about, because this thing happened, it allowed me the opportunity to see a different perspective, and it changed my whole outlook on philosophy and exercise with philosophy. So that's just one example in my life where I was dead wrong. 10 years ago, I was 10 years ago, yeah, 2014, had such a strong, very advanced yoga practice that after my yoga practice, if I had to go anywhere, I would drive because I didn't want to tighten my hips up. Now I encourage, my whole opinion has changed. And and my body didn't sacrifice for it. It actually got stronger and more mobile because my opinions opened and changed on things. And so that's just an example of something of how I've changed and I know you guys didn't know me before then, but how my opinion has changed so much in the 4 years we've been on YouTube. You and I both,
so
Catherine,
much. I mean, on
so
so many
much.
ways, and I love it. I feel, having had the gift of learning the hard way, that that saying you don't know is just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
Not having to convince someone else is absolutely wonderful. Letting go of that pressure because it doesn't serve any of you. However, also understanding the absolute value of sharing opinions, so long as you're not expecting one to agree with them. And the reason I do for that is, like, as I've said at all, as a mother, I'm so grateful for people like Andrew Wakefield that had the guts to stick their heads up as a parapet to give me different information that I wouldn't have got from mainstream that could affect some of the choices I made with my children. I'm very, very grateful for all the people that step up out of the parasite and give me a different perspective. And because if it's meant to hit home for you, there'll be that little voice inside of you, that little feeling, that little flutter that's like, I don't like this, but there's something telling me I need to look into this more. And another thing that came out of the podcast this morning with Ian Carroll and Clayton Morris from Redacted was, I love the way Ian was saying that, self-censorship, let's talk a little bit about that carefully because of the platform we're on. As content creators, as someone, I have been censored for 20 years before I even went near YouTube, because for years and years, well, as long as I've ever been an adult and sharing health information, it's been very apparent that you cannot share anything that doesn't sit with the mainstream narrative, anything that's not a licensed pharmaceutical. You can't tell anyone anything useful about it, unless you're going to write a book, which will probably be my next thing when I get a chance to do it. But this is so important, is the censorship. What we have to do on platforms like this, we do have to self-censor. We have to self-censor because we know the content's going to be shadow banned. We know it's going to be taken down. We know that we might lose our channel and all those years of hard work. And therefore, that's why we're so passionate about supporting other channels like Rumble.
Yeah, absolutely. And they said, they brought up, I mean, it's fabulous because I don't think people truly understand. I know I didn't before I had a YouTube channel. Like, this is a full-time
Oh,
job. You put a lot of energy, not to mention just the hours and hours and hours of research you do for a story, and then the editing, and then putting it in the production, the hours you put into production. And so when you're dealing with a platform that is censoring you, they brought up a good point that you start to like avoid certain topics because it's going to compromise your years of work. One of the comments I got once that really upset me, and I can understand that this person obviously had no idea like how much that I should just say what I want to say, and just
yeah,
if my timer goes down, just screw it, you're doing. And I was like, you have no idea, obviously no idea. This is like a 60-hour week job. Like, you have
yeah.
no idea what we do. And they talked about that. They talked about like how people don't really understand how much this takes. This is a full-time job. And how your livelihood depends on it, how you get sponsorships and all this kind of stuff. And then if you're shadow banned, you might not be able to pay your mortgage that month. You might not be able to pay the electricity. It really does, as it's supposed to. That's the point of it, right? Is it supposed to affect you?
Exactly.
How you then have to branch out to all these other platforms in order to continue the integrity of your work. and how important it is to cross-pollinate through all these different platforms because one could go down, you
Yeah.
know, and they talked about the YouTube, how you never know that the rules are constantly changing depending on what's going on, right? About
Well,
what
I
you
put
can
something up today. I put something on the EMF and bioresonance devices up today. And you pay this money, we have this, to have YouTube approved music that you're allowed to use. And the rules are always changing. So I've just put it up today. And as we started recording, I get a notification to show that that's got music in there, which is from an approved source or for something
yeah,
that I paid for. But YouTube have completely changed the rules. And now that video is being restricted in certain markets. This is the thing, is where this is life, the rules change. I'm not moaning about it. I'm just trying to explain to people that there's always so much more to a situation than you know about, always so much more.
always.
And therefore, if we approach different situations, different people with, oh, I really wonder why they're reacting like that. I wonder why this is an issue. Let me find out more. Or if you don't want to find out more, well, you don't need to find out, make it all your business if it's not something you're interested in. But then don't always judge to the negative judgment. This is
Yeah.
the problem. If we really believe any of the spiritual teachings that everyone's talking about, if you're judging everyone else negatively, that's what's going to come back on you time and time again. If it comes back on us as individuals, that's the collective consciousness we're putting out there.
It's all projection. It absolutely is all projection. And it's a shit show of egos, basically. And to be humble enough to understand that you are a work in progress. Again, change is inevitable, growth is optional. Growth is totally optional. Are you going to grow? Are you going to react? Are you going to observe? You know, if someone says something that pisses you off, and let's be clear, because I said this with the comment with the guy left for me. There's a difference between abuse, like when you're literally being abused, that's different. You're the triggers we have, like the nervous system trigger for abuse is your body trying to protect you. I don't want people to confuse this. When if someone's abusing you or gaslighting you, that's totally different than somebody having a different opinion of you over what your favorite food is, or like
Yeah.
what, that's totally different, right? Is than abuse. And so let's make that very clear. Like this is not what we're talking about. So but when somebody, let's say Catherine came to me today and she goes, Bryce, I think Mr. T is a bad guy. She didn't say that to me. I don't want to start any rumors, but let's just say she said that. Let's just say, and I've said over before that I've got my mind open to the fact that might be, I'm supporting him. Absolutely. But I'm also got an open mind. Even though I think he's good, with an open mind that he might not be, it's not going to change. I want to hear why Catherine, oh, okay, well, why do you think, what's changed your mind? Because I want to know, like, what has changed your mind? Show me the evidence. But so many people would react so negatively and paint the person who said that black and not even just hear what they have to say. Like, hear what they have to say. If you're talking to somebody in America who thinks that Mr. T is a bad guy because of stuff the media, you could say, okay, well, why do you think that? Show what the media said, and show them where the media manipulated it, and let them be open to receive that, right? Instead of getting so emotional. It goes back to my favorite quote, Aristotle quote: it's a sign of an intelligent mind when you can entertain an idea without accepting it. Can you entertain the idea? Can you entertain, if you're a flat earther, can you entertain the idea that the earth actually might be round? If you're a global earther, can you entertain the idea that it might be flat? Or as I agree with you, Catherine, I don't know what the hell we're on. It's not even a focus of mine right now because there's so many other fishes to fry.
Exactly.
That
Exactly.
I know it's not what we think it is. That's what I'm comfortable knowing, it is not what we think it is. And that's how I'm going to leave it for now. And my boyfriend's actually really good at that. Like he's really good at reading information, especially very potent information and scandalous, that makes you want to go, yeah, that's true, or no, that's not true. And he's good at like reading that stuff and just being like, let's just see how this plays out.
Mm.
That's how he was with the 17th channel. Every time a new post would come up, he'd read it and I'd be like, what do you think this is? He goes, let's just see how it plays out. Let's see how it plays out. There's some truth in it. We know there's some truth in it, but let's just see. Maybe it's a psyop. I don't know. Let's see how it plays out.
Mm.
My opinion's gone back and forth on that too, but it is what it is, right? Like that's kind of another quote that we all like, right? It is what it is. It just is what it is. And that's according to the law of one, which I'm glad you said that, Catherine. Yeah, any spiritual stuff you talk about is all theory. It's all theory. So with the law of one, again, they say that third density, the whole point of this is choice. This is not the density of knowing. So you don't know it all. You can't. You're not in the density of knowing it all. How it's Joe Rogan sometimes explains it like it would be like trying to explain an iPhone to an ant.
Yeah, completely. And I think it's so funny about how we, as humans, project our own insecurities onto the other. So the amount of times I've had friends say to me, "Oh, you're such a know-it-all," when actually that hasn't been the energy I've been bringing to the conversation at all. It's been like, I'd love to have a discussion about this. But when people can't then discuss it anymore, the way that people show up as being so attached to their own belief systems and not being trained is to throw, as we've said, the insults back. And all of us have done this at times. But when you're doing that to other people, I'd just love people to just be asking, okay, what is the benefit to anyone of this behavior? Because it doesn't benefit you as an individual, just makes you on the quiet feel pretty crap and go even more double down and get even more defensive and back yourself into a corner even more. It certainly doesn't benefit the person you're attacking, and it certainly doesn't benefit the collective, because we should be able to put it out there in terms of what if. That's how every single record's been broken, every single discovery's been made. What if there's a better way of doing this? And if we shift the mindset for all of us, well, what if that person is right? I was having a discussion with a friend yesterday about the whole solar flash scenario. And again, we assume that what we think in our heads that means is the same as what the person's talking about. And often it's not at all. So if
Right.
we're talking about some big event like a solar flash that's upgrading consciousness, my interpretation, which I'm not saying is right, is I've never taken that as a big flash of light comes down from above and suddenly half the people are knocked out and the rest aren't. I've taken it as a flash of consciousness and awakening. Oh, what is? Someone else will have a very different idea of what that means. It's like when you read a really good book and then see the movie. Some
Yeah.
people love it and others get really cross because that's not how they imagined it.
I get excited and I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will have to say, as you're saying that, Catherine, like, I think this is something as I'm thinking about this, like, as we talk, even talking about this, like, I'm grateful for you because like I said, the last 4 years, my opinions on things have drastically changed. And
Mm.
I'm grateful I had a friend that I could call and be like, I'm kind of second guessing this, and here's why. And Catherine, having an open mind, said, in some cases, me too. Let's talk about this. And so I guess like I'm thinking, and for our audience too, for us, like as we go about the world, are you a safe place for people?
Mm.
Are you, even though people know you have your opinions, do they also know that even though you have your opinions that are different from theirs, you're still going to listen? Like you're still going to be a safe place. You're not going to degrade. Do people know that you're not going to degrade them for having a different opinion where they can come talk to you and they feel safe with you to discuss things? Is because I think if we all took that responsibility on ourselves to check ourselves and make sure that we are safe, I hate to use the safe place jargon they use on the other side, but are you a person, an empathetic person that people in your life who are vastly different from you can be like, I know we have different opinions, but I feel safe with you. I feel like I could talk to you, and you're not going to judge me on this. You're just going to listen, and then are you that person? Because if we all took that responsibility to be that person that people felt comfortable with, then I think this issue would take care of itself, and we would probably grow in consciousness. We'd probably leap forward, take a quantum leap forward in our evolution and our growth as a species.
Yeah, I so agree. I couldn't agree more. And I think in terms of, sorry, that's my dog itching. Let me just. It's really funny how as soon as you start recording, the dogs start itching the thing. They're picking up on the energy. But yeah, I just hope with everything that's going on at the moment in both our countries across the globe, I just really hope that we can all take this opportunity to look at ourselves and listen and say, well, that is interesting. What have I changed about? Well, therefore, what are the potentials? And the beauty is that when you are prepared, if you're stuck in a bit of a depressive moment where you're thinking, gosh, this is all looking pretty bleak, to be quite honest, when you then are prepared to open up your mind to, Lola, stop it. I've just been washing, they're all itchy. It's just really annoying trying to concentrate. Come on, darling, lie down. When you are really prepared to look at everything with a fresh pair of eyes, imagine the possibility imagine how we can all shift things. Imagine if we stopped sitting at every single public figure and looking for what's wrong, and we withdrew all that energy and put it into creating.
Yeah. You know, if I just saying this, do you know that I don't know if we've talked about this before, but there's a saying, the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah,
You know that saying? So I have listened to a forensic psychologist talk about the root of this saying. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, got it. Yes, we're more open-minded. We have more opportunities of growth, but we bust through the walls of limitation that we've created in our own minds. Well, that saying the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree really is indications of like what they would say in a relationship would be like the child's too enmeshed in the parent.
yeah,
And so the acorn needs to actually fall far from the tree so that it can receive the sunlight and grow on its own. So we think about that and what we're talking about and how we have, if our acorn tree, if we're the acorns of an acorn tree that's the truther community, and we're clinging to every single conspiracy that people have put out, and we don't sit back and question everything, then are we limiting our growth as a
yeah,
human being, just like that acorn that falls close to the tree can't get the sunlight and therefore can't grow and be its own sovereign tree, right? Or can we just roll? Can we still be in the vicinity of the seeker, the disclosure community, and the truth, be in the vicinity, but also enough on our own to receive the light to grow and form and not cling to the ways of the one big tree. Does that make sense? Like
yeah,
we can actually get
completely.
that light and grow. And most of the conspiracies myself that were put out when I first got on that I claimed to and believed, I now 99% of them I don't even believe anymore. I think it's all
Yeah,
junk conspiracy because I've seen how it's played out. I've seen it's put people in junk conspiracy. A cul-de-sac where they're just spinning, spinning, spinning around. They're not growing themselves. They're right where the cabal wants them. They're not out there actually questioning things and still continuing. If you're aware enough to question the establishment, then I feel like it goes without saying that you have to be aware enough to question another establishment, an
yeah.
alternative, right? You constantly have to be questioning everything, even us. I mean, I know Catherine and I, our intention is nothing but good. Have we had opinions that have changed? Yeah, absolutely. But our intention was always good. So that's why I've left. That's why I leave all my videos up like that from my old videos, that from my old opinions, because I've grown and evolved and changed. And I'm not afraid to admit that. And I'm hoping that our friends watching feel the same way, that they can listen to things, watch them play out, but not hold on to it as their actual identity. So they're not emotional over it. And that's why I bring up all the time JFK Jr. Okay, if he's alive, how does that affect you? If he's dead, how does that affect you?
And
How
just
is that?
even say he walked out tomorrow, which would be lovely, and he was alive, but just because he's alive still doesn't mean Princess Diana's alive.
Exactly.
So the thing is,
Exactly.
if we lump these things together, and it is human nature, it saves on a lot of cognitive ability and energy wasted on that. But we have this natural tendency to think, oh, if A is true, then B is true as well, if we've lumped them together. It's like if you're labeled as a conspiracy theorist. So, anyone who's still saying, show me the scientific paper or your conspiracy theorists, then they're just not worth your time anymore because
Yeah.
they're obviously so stuck in their own insecurity that they can't even spend 10 minutes themselves looking for their own scientific paper. And who's going to believe those scientific papers anyway, now that we've seen that virtually all the main journals have been corrupted over the last goodness knows how many years. But I think this is the other thing is just because that one bit of the story is true doesn't mean that everything else is true, because look at how easy it is to manipulate people. Every deception that's put out, there is always some truth in it. That's how they catch people in. Oh, look, they must be right because that happened. But it doesn't mean they're going to be right about everything for the rest of their life. You can be the person that's run the 4-minute mile, but it doesn't mean you'll ever be able to do it again, or it doesn't mean that next week you can do the 3-minute mile. So I think for me anyway, the lesson for me is it relieves so much pressure on ourselves. It makes us a calmer, nicer person to be around. As you say, are you someone that can be trustworthy? Can people be honest, or do they have to be fake around you because they think that if they don't say something that fits your perception? Can you have those difficult conversations with people? And I don't mean difficult as an argumentative, but can you sort of say, well, actually, I've got a very different opinion and this is why. you know, and see if you can have that, and just see how much you can both grow or empathize with each other out of it. But it's very hard when everyone is being shown such poor role models across the
Yeah,
board, really.
absolutely. And I will say, not to mess with people's minds, we're talking about dead people. Like, I actually believe Michael Jackson is still alive. That's one
Yeah.
person I do. I don't know about the others, but I've been thinking too. So, in the United States, we have people with this huge conspiracy that Trump or T is the president and then Kennedy Jr. is vice president. Well, and when I first heard that, I immediately jolted. I was like, but that's a banana republic. I was
Mm.
like, most people, if he's alive, most people don't know he's alive, but you put him in a position of power without him being elected there by the people. That's just as bad as what the B team did. They're no different. The people got so upset I said that, and I was like, nobody voted for him
Yeah.
because most people, because he might be dead. Like, don't you see that's still tyranny? That's still what we're opposed to. He could be a great president if he's alive. I don't know, but the fact that he just was placed, you're telling me he was placed into power without the people knowing, but our constant, but yet we get mad at the other side for doing the same thing with the B team. Like,
Oh,
it's
it's just laughable. It's
it's
like, oh, they're
laughable.
spraying
Yeah.
good stuff from the sky. It's like, I don't want them spraying anything for the time. They don't know. Who am I going to trust that this is good stuff?
If the white hats are doing something without your consent, they're not the white hats.
Yeah.
That's it's and if Kennedy does come out alive, my question goes, well, is it a deep fake? Is that a hologram?
Okay.
Because we know about blue beam, how it first was Jesus in the sky, and then it was aliens. So don't tell me, what if they contracted this concept, this illusion that this guy that was supposed to be dead is alive and he's going to save you, and so they put him out on stage and but what if
I'd
he's
like to be the person that goes up and feels these people all over and pulls to see if it's a mask, and
yeah, I'm
see
like,
that they're ticklish, if they're a robot or not. Who are robots ticklish? There's all these tests I'd like to do to see, and until I've done that on all these people, Kate Middleton included, I'm not going to believe they're real.
yeah, question. And it's like I just think
I'd
like
love them to be. That's the difference. Just because you
yeah,
say you don't think they are doesn't mean you don't want them.
exactly,
So many
exactly. But
times we want to be wrong about
just
things.
being realistic and like if anybody's saying they're going to come save you, run. It's like what Reagan said. What did he say? The scariest thing you can hear from the government is, "Hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to help you." Like
Yeah.
run. And that's where I get, it's like, is that I don't understand how you can see that with one side doing that, but you can't see that when it's happening in the alternative establishment too.
Mm.
Just because it's the guy you like, it's okay to break the rules and to create tyranny. Like it's anyway. So so that's something to think about, guys. If Kenny Jr. is alive and he comes on stage, is it really him or is it a
Yeah.
psyop?
And how you're going to test and let us know.
Yeah.
I want to know, our I think tickling someone's quite a good way of testing them.
I think
Well,
our countries need to have a vote to see who gets to be the tickler.
yeah, I think that would be the best one. But let us know below. I want to hear from people to say, what have you changed your mind on? What things have you dramatically changed your mind on over the last few years? And what things do you want to have your mind changed on? And do you feel that with your journey that you've been on, I can hand on heart say, I feel a much more compassionate, open-minded person now than I
Yeah,
did 4 years ago. Uh,
absolutely.
I really do. And I feel I'm definitely going in the right direction. Who feels they're going in the right direction? And what good role models have you seen out there that really demonstrate that really well would be a thing I'd like to see as well.
Can I add one thing to that I'm
Please
curious?
do.
I want to know from you guys, and I know you were on Catherine's channel this week, so I sorry for speaking for you, Catherine, but watch your words when you put in the comment section too, because it does affect us. So make sure you're, putting pretend words for real, you guys know the drill. I
Censorship
want to,
is talking about the
yeah,
censorship words, yeah.
yeah. So watch the V word and all, but I want to know from you guys because I feel like, as we said, I feel like everyone thinks they have to have an opinion on something. Is there something right now going on in your life that you want to share with the global world that you don't have an opinion on, but you're just waiting for it to play out? Because I think that's really important that it's okay to not know. It's
Really,
okay to
yeah.
like, you don't have to have an opinion immediately. Like you can so I think we should like encourage people to like, you know, be okay with not knowing. Like I think I told this story before. David Greed, one of the foremost master teachers here in the West, very famous teacher of Eastern philosophy, teaches these incredible conferences. He was my teacher for a long time, has answers for everything, knows deep philosophy, deep philosophy. And one time I was in a conference, like taking notes like crazy from things he was saying. And I can't even remember the question somebody asked him. Somebody asked him a question and he literally looks at the person, he goes, I don't know.
Mm.
And that was interesting because I thought, wow, what confidence he has to be like, I don't know the answer to your question. I don't know. You stumped me. But that we should be able to do that, right? We should be able to be like, I don't
the
know.
absolute norm. And you know, and then the great thing is you can then choose whether you want to go and investigate it or not. And it might be something of interest to you to think, wow, I really do want to know. It might be something you're not bothered about at all. So
Yeah.
well, we will be back next week on Esoteric Atlanta. So, for those of you that are watching this, first and foremost, thank you so much for being here and being on these coffee chats with us. We love just having these conversations. We really do, you know, feel that you're here with us. So, let us do interact. Please do go and subscribe to our Rumble channels as well. That is really, really important in this free speech, free world as much as we possibly can. And let us know what's on your mind below. You know, really do let us know, you know, what you've learned, what good examples you've got. As Bryce said, please be careful with the words. You guys know the score, you know, asterisks, initials are fine. You don't need to write the whole word if it's something controversial, because that counts that towards the censorship bans as well, what you put in the comments.
We
Thanks,
should at
Bryce.
one point have a competition to see what the cleverest code name can be for the Zappardy Doodah.
Yeah.
Like just what the cleverest name people can come up with for this thing. You know, yeah, you guys. And we appreciate you guys for playing the game with us. It's not our game. It's not, you know, don't hate the player, hate the game. It's not our game, but we got to play it and to get through this. And so we appreciate you guys being very careful in your comment section for how you say what's on your mind. So yeah.
Brilliant. Come and join us next week. Happy 4th
July.
of July to everyone there. Yeah.
And we'll see you guys next
Thank
week.
you
Bye,
so
everybody.
much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. And above all, stay curious and stay free.